All right. Good morning, everyone. We are so glad that you are able to join us this morning, and we're so thankful that you've taken the time to join us for all of these updates. My name is Melissa Tui. I am the EdTech Adoption Specialist here at Ozobot, and I'm joined with Adrian White, our Director of Marketing. Adrian, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. It's good to see you all and catch up with you. Very much looking forward to this.
And we also have Cassandra, who is our content manager. She will be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions or comments, please pop them in there. And just make sure that in the to field, make sure you're sending it to all panelists and attendees. Otherwise, only the panelists will see it. But we'd love for everyone to start a discussion. So if you haven't done so yet, in that to field in the chat, select all panelists and attendees. We also have Nikki Jones, Lisa Richardson, Kristen Albright, and Renee Perry joining us. They're going to chime in on some of the updates and share some tips and advice when it comes to meeting the new requirements that we are about to roll out and share with you. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. We'll jump right in. What we will do today is we'll go over some housekeeping items. We've already done our introductions, so that's off our list. Then we'll have, Adrian's gonna speak about Ozobot and distance learning and a really exciting new pilot program that we're excited to share with everyone. Then we're going to talk about exciting updates to our CE requirements. Now that COVID-19 has been a very real reality for most of us, we're trying to make it work. We know that things are challenging during this time, but we want to be able to support you in meeting your CE requirements. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll have our guest panelists speak about their experience meeting those requirements. And then we'll move on to Q&A. And again, Cassandra is monitoring that chat, so feel free to pop any questions into there. For this webinar, I believe the settings are that your mic is turned on. So if you have any questions at the end or just want to be part of the conversation, just know that your mic is on. If you are not speaking, we just ask that you mute yourself so that background noise is not getting in the way of our conversation. Q&A, we also have the Q&A feature up, so if you have any questions that you'd like us to see at the end of the webinar, feel free to use that. And then the chat, again, please make sure to select all panelists and attendees so that everyone can see your comments. Again, I'm Melissa, Adrian is here as well, and we won't take up too much time going over that. So I'll hand it over to Adrian, since she will be talking about the new pilot program.
Yeah, so first off, I just wanted to say, Melissa and I both hope everyone is doing well, that your families, your students, everyone's healthy and safe. We always appreciate the time that you guys spend with us, but even more so right now, because we know it's a challenging time for everyone, but educators especially are under a tremendous amount of pressure and stress. So thank you for your time. And just wanted to kind of outline what we've been doing since COVID-19 kind of struck all of us. So back in March, once safer at home measures and school closures were kind of rolled out in a wider way, we polled the community. You can see one of our polls on the right side of this slide here, just about what Ozobot could be doing. Like, what was the best way for us to support you guys? For obvious reasons, it didn't feel like the right time to push sales or our product even necessarily. So we just kind of wanted to understand what we could do and what we could provide. And the overwhelming response you can see here, this was typical of all the ways we polled, was that educators were looking for PD opportunities and webinars. And then tips for teaching remotely, of course, because everyone had to quickly adapt to that. So our biggest response was just rolling out a weekly webinar schedule, which Melissa took on in a huge way. And a lot of our CEs took on in a huge way by co-hosting with us. And I just wanted to highlight that today, in part to thank you guys for that, but also because some of the discussions in there are so valuable. I mean, it's helped me really understand the moment, and I think can be really helpful to other educators. So if you've been watching those, that's great. But just want to emphasize, send those around, share them. I put a couple of the recent ones in here in the slide and links to those video recordings. And then And just to run through those really quickly, Melissa and some educators hosted a STEAM and social distancing forum. We had one in the morning and one in the afternoon. That was in the early days. There was a lot of really good like thoughts on what was happening, and also just support, I think, provided. Then we've been doing a couple of slightly more Ozobot focused ones. We've looked at virtual lessons for teachers who brought bots home, and then our robot simulator Shape Tracer and how that can be used at this time. And the co-hosts with us today have been involved in a lot of these. So you can see them there, featured there. And then at the very bottom, we put a link to our webinar calendar. So you can see from there all the past webinar recordings or sign up for webinars that are upcoming, because we're, for the time being, going to keep this going until we hear from the community that you don't want anymore, basically.
Can I
So,
chime in there as well, Adrian? I
yeah.
know one of our very successful webinars that Kristen Albright, who's on this panel today, and a friend of hers, they hosted one all about distance learning activities that have nothing to do with robotics necessarily, but just engagement overall, which was really, really wonderful. So if anyone's still looking for that type of resource that's not specific to bots, everything we've listed here, we have both coding and non-coding focused type of webinars, but that one especially, people seemed very engaged, and they shared a lot of tools that were really, really helpful. So if that would be helpful to you or any educator you know, I encourage you to go and check out the past webinars and look for that one in particular.
Great. And then moving on to the next slide, part of what these conversations have kind of inspired is a new initiative with Ozobot. We've been talking with a lot of district leaders as well as classroom teachers about what we could do to bring the value that educators have found with Ozobot in the classroom, and then bring that to students at home. So while it, again, is a difficult time and definitely a moment for education, we are looking at this in terms of, you know, distance learning sticking around in some capacity. I think, at least here in California, recent reports are that even if schools are back in session in the fall, it might be like a staggered or hybrid solution where half of the student population comes in the morning and the other half in the afternoon. Things are still obviously very much up in the air, but we just wanted to make sure that we are responding to the moment when it does come down to our product and its usage as well, if there's demand for that and interest in that. So we're piloting an Ozobot one-to-one program. So basically the way this would work, if a lot of you are familiar with our classroom kits and how we recommend 2 students to 1 bot in the classroom. If we were to support distance learning, it would require 1 robot per student and bots actually being sent home to students. So it would be a shift of our entire kind of model, where instead of talking about a number of classroom kits to support your students, we talk about how many students you're looking to support and an equal number of robots. So at the district level, that would look like more of a fee per student instead of a cost per classroom kit, if that makes sense. So what we're thinking of proposing to districts is, again, that fee per student. It could be worked out as a 1 or a 2-year subscription, basically. And then bots could be sent home to students. Teachers, we would provide remote learning support for. That link is to a sample instructional video, because when we say remote learning support, our thoughts on how to provide that right now are by adapting lesson content in our lesson library into instructional videos. So videos that are student facing and could actually help students get through lessons. And then the third kind of component of that, I'm guessing when some of you hear bots being sent home to students, it's kind of, there might be some alarm bells that go off. So we want to build into this pilot program, and if it continues, build into the larger program a plan for robot replacements. So if a student breaks a bot or loses it, we would actually replace those up to a certain point, and we want to be really generous with the point at which we allow that. So that would be built into the program. What else do I want to mention about that? Oh, we're also thinking we would incentivize students. So if they do return their bot at the end of the year, they can get a prize, like an Ozobot t-shirt or something, some way to really motivate them. It might be something bigger. We want to hear from you guys about what would actually motivate them to do that, to almost treat their bot like a class pet that needs to be sent back to the class at the end of the year. So those are very initial thoughts about an Ozobot one-to-one pilot program. The reason I wanted to share it with you guys, the CEs, today is because we want your feedback on the idea. So if we move on to the next slide, Melissa, there are a couple of asks we have for you guys.
Yeah. Adrienne, could I interrupt? There is a really good question in the chat. What accessories would be included?
So we would definitely include a charger and markers. Those were our initial thoughts, accessory-wise, keeping it pretty simple so there's not a lot of stuff to get lost or broken, but the markers and a charger as the bare minimum with each bot. So again, it's a change from our classroom kit. You guys know our Evo Classroom Kit 2.0 that we introduced this year has that really cool charging base, but that obviously doesn't support a one-to-one at-home model. So we'd have individual chargers going out with the bots for students, if that makes sense.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, that's our initial thought. This is very, very early days. So again, it's a pilot program that we want to introduce, and we would love your help. If you think it's something that would be of interest to your district, definitely let us know. You can just email Melissa, and I are both on the Certified Educator at ozobot.com email list, so we'll get that information. And what we would do is connect our account executive for your region with that district administrator who could make, a decision about joining a pilot program like this. Then we just want your thoughts and feedback on this idea. Again, we think it is right for Ozobot to support distance learning because this could be very well more than a moment and might be something that's useful longer term, but would love your overall thoughts on the idea. We've got here a link to a survey about distance learning and the ways you guys are approaching it right now, because that can really help us prioritize things as we introduce this program and make sure that we're rolling it out in a way that supports your needs. So, we really value anytime we get to listen to your opinions. So that's what that survey is for. So number one, nominate your district is only if you think it's relevant for your district. But number two, we would really, really love all of our CEs to participate in that survey and help us shape this thing. So it's got a handful of questions in there, but if one person is going to win 3 Evo Educator entry kits for filling out the survey. So it's a $300 value prize package. So I do recommend filling that out and giving us your thoughts on this pilot program and help us shape it.
Just a couple of questions that came up in the chat that I think would be helpful to answer. Sheila's asking what grade levels this pilot program would be for.
That's a great question. To be really frank, it's still such early days that we are wondering whether the biggest factor there is that remote teaching support, I'd say, right, Melissa? So it comes down to how much content we could actually adapt into instructional lesson videos. We always want to provide support for all grades, K through 12, but there may be a scenario where we tackle elementary school first and then middle school and high school. But if that is something, if you're a middle school or high school teacher and you think it would be useful, there's an open-ended question at the end of the survey, and definitely let us know that you'd be interested in this kind of support. Timing-wise, we're talking about this for the fall. So we want to be able to support educators again in whatever capacity students are learning come fall. So that's our thinking there. And if you would have interest at the middle school and high school level, let us know so that we can prioritize producing instructional video content across the board. And someone asked how long it would last. Our initial thoughts are to offer districts either a 1-year or a 2-year subscription. That's initial idea, but if you have thoughts on that, again, use that open-ended question in the survey. And I'm just seeing if there's anything else. How could teachers make lessons to support other teachers? Great question. So our lesson creator tool within Ozobot Classroom is a great way to add and share lessons with the community. We're rolling out, though, I want to mention a kind of simplified version of that. We're referring to it as an easy lesson uploader. The lesson creator tool is more of an Ozobot lesson template. So if you can work within that template and build your lesson out in that way, that's great. But if you'd just like to upload a lesson that is existing that you already have and you want to upload it as is, that's going to be an option as well. And with that easier option, we want to make video one of the options. So you can either upload a file or a video, or two that support one another. And with video, instructional lesson videos are key. Melissa's going to talk about this a little bit later in the webinar, actually, and go into detail on what we're looking for there. But it seems like, and this would be good to hear from you guys about, but it seems like video is more important than ever right now, given the distance learning kind of moment and situation that we're all in.
All right, great. Thanks so much. We're going to move on to the certified educator requirements. When you were accepted into the program, you agreed to submitting 3 lessons per year in our lesson library and then presenting at 1 conference. And when this COVID-19 Safer at Home initiative began, we very quickly realized that that second option of presenting at 1 conference likely wasn't going to happen this summer, or who knows what's going to happen going into next school year. So we really wanted to be intentional about giving you options to meet both your requirements. So I'm just going to jump right in. Requirement number 1 is to submit those 3 lessons. So, let me just jump back really quickly. And for those that are unable to fulfill the requirements, we will be asking them to return their classroom kits so that we can provide that to a CE that is on the wait list. Or waiting to become a CE, I should say. So that's an agreement that you've made, and we're just really hoping that our brilliant community can meet all the expectations and the requirements. So the deadline for lesson submissions is July 1st, and if you have submitted your 3 lessons, you have gotten, I believe we've shouted you out in our CE newsletter, and I've also let you know that you've met the requirement. And these lessons do need to be high quality. Essentially, when I review the lessons, I ask myself, if I handed this to another teacher, do they have everything they need in this lesson plan to successfully teach this lesson in a traditional context, right? So in the classroom, would they be able to teach this lesson? If there's not enough information or not enough clarity around what the lesson should look like, I give you direct feedback on adjustments you can make. So you can submit those lessons in Ozobot Classroom using the lesson creator tool.
The screen is going to have my voice, but not my face. Can we answer for Laura, do the 3 lessons to become a CE count toward their lessons for the year?
They do. So if you have just recently become a certified educator, your 3 lessons counted towards this requirement. But again, if you have any ideas or more things to share, feel free to submit them. We are going to be hosting an Ozobot Awards ceremony later this year. So the more content that you contribute, the more likely you are to win an award, and we'll have some cool prizes as well. So I believe we have we'll be announcing more about that soon. So
yeah, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, we'll get that information out about the Ozobot Awards.
So again, you can use the lesson creator tool to submit your lessons. So the presentation requirement, we quickly realized that this is not going to be possible for most CEs. So we've compiled a list of 4 alternatives for you that we hope you can get super excited about, because it's a chance to not only connect with other CEs, but to connect with the Ozobot community in a broader way. So instead of doing a presentation at a conference, you can choose between hosting a webinar or co-hosting one if you're able to find other Ozobot educators or other educators that have expertise in the subtopic that you're interested in hosting a webinar on. For example, Kristen, again, she hosted one all about virtual engagement, and she invited a friend of another educator friend of hers to join her to host that webinar. So that was a really fantastic one. Lisa and Nikki hosted one all about teaching math with Ozobots. That was really, really wonderful and successful. And Renee, who's a panelist today as well, she hosted one all about innovative content creation, about her beautifully written lesson plans and wonderful content that she's created. So not all webinars need to be Ozobot related. It can be, you know, virtual learning related, anything that you feel would be helpful to educators during this time. We're open to topic ideas. So would love for you to think about that and think about what would make sense for you or any teachers that you know. Another alternative would be hosting a Twitter chat. Also creating a lesson video or participating in a focus group. So I went deep into how the webinar option, but again, we are currently seeking co-hosts for how to teach ELA with Ozobot, and then a fall planning panel. So if you have expertise in how to teach using Ozobots to teach ELA, please email us at certifiededucator@ozobot.com, and we can get you on that panel, and then you'll easily meet that requirement.
Yeah, and just a quick note about that. Nikki and Lisa, who are on here with us, did a How to Teach Math with Ozobot webinar that was really great and well received. So that, again, is on that webinar calendar, the list of past webinars, and could be good inspiration for what we're trying to do with a How to Teach ELA with Ozobot webinar. And the purpose behind that, I mean, we're proposing that one as a topic because we've been hearing and reading reports. There's a recent NWEA report that kind of looks at a potential COVID slide in terms of math and reading skills. So we wanted to kind of emphasize that we understand that this isn't necessarily the moment to be focused on coding or computer science, but maybe integrating those into things like math and ELA would be useful. So any tips and tools to share with other educators on that. That was the thinking behind that one. And then the fall planning panel, I think everyone's trying to figure out what fall is going to look like. Maybe getting people together to share information and ideas and resources for that, we were thinking could be valuable. So if you're interested in either of those, that's great. But like Melissa said, propose your own webinar topics too. We've had great success with that as well.
And yes, if you think of a topic or are interested in hosting a webinar, email us at certifiededucator@ozobot.com. We will supply you the slide deck to add to. We make it as easy as possible for you. All the slides are there. You can pop in pictures, any content that you want, and then you'll co-host the webinar with our team. And again, if you'd like to have multiple panelists or know of other educators that may not be certified educators to join you, we're completely open to that option, and we love the variety and just having more educators on board. So I would actually like to give a few minutes to each of our CEs that have already participated in hosting a webinar. We'll go ahead and start with Kristen. I've just asked each one of our CEs to just share any tidbits or helpful insights that might be helpful to anyone that might be feeling a little bit nervous or not unsure about hosting a webinar. So we'll jump to Kristen first.
Hi, I am really excited to be here today, and I had an idea for a webinar just because I was thinking about what teachers need and how I could get my message to teachers out on a more global platform. And I thought, well, Ozobot is the perfect place to do that, and they would give us an opportunity to do that. So I asked a coworker who is much more organized than I am, and she makes really good fancy slides. We kind of collaborated on this idea, and we reached out to Melissa to see if it would be possible to do a webinar on distance learning and fun interactive ways to get kids involved. And then we just kind of ran it like we would do a regular in-service with our teachers. I was a tech coach for many years, and it was very similar to that. I find it's a lot easier to do a webinar this way because you don't see all the people that you're presenting to. I'm here in my pajamas in my kitchen, and it makes it a lot easier to present than say at ISTE or a major tech conference. So it's whatever you want to make it. And I found that Ozobot is so supportive of anything that we want to do to share with others. It has just been a wonderful opportunity. And then the information that we made has kind of gone viral, and a lot of people have picked up our slides and taken it and added to it. So that was a really cool opportunity in that we made a slideshow of all these different activities you can do with your class. And then other people have started emailing us from across the country ideas to add to that. And I just think that's really the power of distance learning at this point, is that we're all in this together and trying to help. And so if you can think of something teachers would want to know, then contact them, and Ozobot will help you put it together.
Thank you, Kristen. We'll jump to Nikki. Do you have any insights or thoughts you'd like to share with our audience?
Hi guys, thanks for having me. I have two wild little boys, so if you hear noise, that is what it is, but I'm excited to be here, and I just wanted to share that the webinar was really easy to put together, and I feel like the things that educators want to see are ideas. So when Lisa and I did our webinar together, it was really just sharing a lot of what we had already been doing in our classrooms and kind of compiling all of those ideas, because for me, when I got started, that's really what I needed. And I was searching in a lot of different places, but I feel like it was really powerful. And I've had a lot of teachers reach out through Twitter and go about and recreate the lessons. So I think just having a place to start and a great platform to share different ideas with other educators who are like-minded and are going to take it and run with it.
Thank you. And again, Nikki and Lisa hosted an amazing webinar all about how to teach math. Nikki covered elementary school, Lisa covered high school. It was just so rich and engaging, and so many educators stepped away from that knowing exactly how they could teach math with Ozobot, and it was so successful. It was a wonderful, wonderful one.
And I think that was the power of it, is because when I teach something or when I want to introduce people, I want them to be able to walk away and think, I can put this in my classroom tomorrow, or I can implement this next week. So I really tried to share those ideas that I'm doing every day. They might not be fancy, but they're things that can be put into place almost immediately. So thanks for having us for that. We had a blast doing it. And I was talking with another certified educator or someone who's in the process, and we have ideas for you, Melissa.
That sounds wonderful. I can't wait to hear them. We'll jump to Lisa. Lisa, do you have any tidbits or insights to share?
There we go. I've had a lot of fun. I think one of the things I like about Ozobot, and I've spoken with a friend of mine, we do a lot of presentations like all over our state in person. And we really like how laid back the Ozobot ones are. They're really comfortable. It's just sharing information. And I think that's really, really important. I love the fact that we actually see faces, because I've done a lot of webinars where you just see the screen of the calculator. And I like being able to put the name to the face. I know that's something kind of minor, but it just has that emotional connection. If you've never done a webinar, it's like she said, like Kristen said, it's so much more low key. And I love sharing information. I want to share the Ozo love. I'm high school math. Who would have thought Ozobots would have been a tool in my classroom for major grades? And so I think getting those ideas out there, which I'm kind of like Nikki, and Melissa knows this because I actually communicate with her a lot. I've already got like 3 ideas that I would like to send out, because I just kind of fly with it and go with it. So if you follow me on Twitter, I'm always like, I was communicating too, Nikki, with a CE, and she was asking me some questions, and I sat down and put up like a multiple choice activity last week with Ozobot, because this is the time to plan. And so I really like the idea of those of you trying to think of a webinar to do. I mean, heck, if you want me to go on and come up with something, I will. I love having ideas, and I love being able to share. So you need somebody to do a webinar with you, find me. I will put something together with you. I will make it work. But I think that I think now is the time to start prepping for next year for sure. Yeah. And I've already thought about like how could you start the year with Ozobots? I start my high school math class with Ozobots the first week. And I think that, go for it. Just try something. If you have 5 people show up, you've reached 5 people, and that can grow exponentially. So definitely put your idea out there. If you want to run your idea by Melissa and them, they will gladly say, hey, this sounds good, or go find this, or, they're very supportive. So, just try it and get out there. And there's definitely a great Twitter community, and Ozobot is wonderful on Twitter. We're like BFFs all the time. So just, just go, just try it. And it's a lot easier than in person. In my opinion, in person, you're running back and forth across the ballroom, cutting stuff and gluing. And I mean, literally, just like with students, teachers can't open the scissors right or can't cut the foldable right. And so it's a great way to get your feet wet for presenting in person too, I feel like. So that's just my idea. Sorry, I go off with it.
It was wonderful to hear from you. I will also let Renee Perry chime in. She hosted a webinar all about innovative content creation. And if you have not seen any of Renee's lessons, I highly encourage you to check her lessons out in our lesson library. They are absolutely amazing. So Renee, do you have any tidbits or insights to share with our CE audience?
You guys are very kind. Ozobot is so easy to work with, and I love using Ozobots as a tool. It's one of the easiest ways to teach programming, STEM across the board. I teach STEM in elementary, and I can use this bot in my science classrooms, my math classrooms, my language. This bot is so easy to use. And to use a webinar to start planning now, we're reinventing the educational wheel. Right now, at this current time, everything's adjusting, and as it settles down in its place, we as educators are going to have to revamp and become better than we are. And so the webinars and the videos and everything we're doing right now is laying a whole new platform for something even bigger than what we are now. And I'm super proud to be part of it.
Thank you so much, Renee. Great.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to that because I saw the question come up in the Slack. Someone asked roughly how long we like webinars to be. We are flexible on that if you have an idea for something maybe really quick or a little bit longer, but we usually shoot for about an hour. And that's just so that the educators who tune in can apply for PD credit with their district. So that's what we're going for there. I apologize, I kind of glossed over the PD credit component earlier. But I like that you guys as recent co-hosts are talking about the fact that as a co-host, there's an element of professional development for you, putting yourself out there, sharing ideas. I think there's so much value in that right now, just because educators, not only in the US, but around the world are looking for tips on how to adapt to this moment. And you guys have such valuable information to share. So thank you for doing it and being enthusiastic about it.
And to expand on that, Adrienne, that 1 hour time limit, that's including the housekeeping we do in the beginning, the Q&A we do at the end. So I know with Lisa and Nikki, they, because there were two presenters, they probably each presented for about 20, 25 minutes each, probably closer to that 20-minute mark, just because there are a few housekeeping items that we had to get to. I think you'd be shocked at how quickly it flies by and how much you actually want more time because you don't necessarily feel like you have enough time to get through all the content that you want to cover. So yeah. While an hour sounds very daunting, it flies by is what I'm trying to say. So, and again, if you want to collaborate with others so that you have a smaller portion of the time slot, that's absolutely fine as well.
Yes, great point.
Cool. All right. So now on to Twitter chats. Oh, there's a typo here, but essentially you will decide on a Twitter chat topic. Then you'll email certifiededucator@ozobot.com with your proposed topic idea, and Ozobot will supply the Twitter images for the chat. Then it'll be up to you to just host the chat, and with that topic idea, if you can come up with the Twitter questions that you would like to engage the audience in, I'd be happy to help brainstorm some questions as well. And we will collaborate with you to host that Twitter chat. So, and it looks like there's a few that have already hosted Twitter chats. So if that's something you're interested in, feel free to reach out to those educators or reach out to certifiededucator@ozobot.com and we can collaborate and make this happen.
Yeah, that's actually great because Twitter chats are new to us. It's something we haven't done before. Melissa's brought it up as something we should do. So we've been wanting to for a while. So if you guys have experience, you can actually help us get up to speed too.
Okay, great. So now moving on to the instructional video. Again, the most important thing for the education team here at Ozobot is to make sure that teachers feel supported. And we know that right now, teachers they're put in a position where these are challenges that we've never really faced before as educators. And so one of the things that we are really trying to promote is helping educators, but also leveraging the strengths of the educators that we have in our Ozobot community to help one another. That's through webinars, that's through Twitter chats, but it's also through instructions. So if you're not interested in a webinar or hosting a Twitter chat, or maybe you're interested in all of the above and you'd like to participate in all of these ways, that would be wonderful. But we would love for you to consider creating an instructional lesson video. So the idea behind this is that for a student that has an Ozobot at home, or even if they don't, using Shape Tracer 1, Shape Tracer 2, Ozoblockly to teach lessons and programming, if you could record a video that's student facing and guide them through a computer science or robotics lesson, this would also meet the requirement of your CE requirement. So again, when we review these videos, long story short, we will watch the video and we'll ask, can a student accomplish this task or this lesson independently just by watching the video? Do you provide a solution or a sample of what the final product should look like? Essentially, we want student success and we want them to be able to engage in computer science no matter what their context is right now. And we want teachers to feel supported in being able to deliver this content to students. So we do have a blog post with more details and more requirements. We also had hosted a webinar where we had a video expert on, and he shared his best practices and tips for creating high quality content videos and what to include. And within that webinar, I also included a sample video that I created myself. And it's nothing fancy. It doesn't have to be high production. Essentially, we just want the educational content to be really, really strong. Once you've created your video, you can publish it on YouTube and send us a link to it, or you can submit it using the form that is linked in the slideshow as well. So that is an instructional lesson video. We really hope that everyone considers this as an option as well, because it would be incredibly helpful and reach so many students by creating this content. Oh, again, so instructional video, a clear objective, having instructions to complete the task, sample code or what the solution should look like at the end, and then optional if you want to pose an open-ended challenge or an extension using what the students have learned, that would be wonderful as well.
And I just want to mention, we actually have a giveaway tied to this. So educators who submit an instructional video are in the running to win a new Evo Classroom Kit, our Evo Classroom Kit 2.0. And we're just asking for that particular giveaway. If you submit your instructional video by August 1st, you'll be considered. And I just want to mention the odds are really great for you right now. So we haven't gotten a lot of submissions because we just introduced this. So get those videos in and you might get a whole bunch more bots.
And Lisa wanted to
chime in for a second.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't raise my hand. I was looking all through it because I'm a panelist. But something that we recommended with the Shape Tracer last week is you honestly, if you've not done Shape Tracer with your kids right now and they have device, if it's just a few levels, have them do it. I have a kid who hates Ozobots. He just cannot manage, this is high school, to draw the lines correctly. He always has to pair with somebody, and he finished it. So for the instructional videos though, your kids really need one in your voice. So if you're gonna make one anyways, wouldn't hurt to submit it. It's just kind of an idea, but I just wanted to put that out there in case you guys hadn't done it. I tried it for the very first time with my kids and they had never done anything like that. And they did it. I had kids that did the whole lesson. I had 2 kids that have turned in no assignments that did it the first day. So just an idea. I want to put that out there in case it was missed in the chat. Sorry.
No, that's a great point. The sample instructional video that Melissa made is for Shape Tracer. So Lisa, I think you're bringing up a great point that you could literally just model Melissa's video because having it in your voice for your students, of course, is a great way to approach it.
I've learned my kids have to have my voice. Like they will be, I gave them a video that explained it better than I did, and they didn't get it. So I had to go back and do one, and this is seniors. But, and you don't want to share with them Melissa's video either, because I almost made that mistake, realizing that she gives them all the answers. So be cautious of that if you guys, you don't want to link that whole webinar, because I almost made that mistake, just a heads up.
Great point.
Yes, thank you, Lisa. All right, and our last option to meet the requirement is to participate in a focus group or user interview. So we will have 1 hour interviews or focus groups on new products and softwares that we're trying to launch. We want to get user feedback. Who better to ask than our CEs, who are our power users and know us best. So we would love to have your feedback. If this is something you're interested in, again, email certifiededucator@ozobot.com. Spaces will be limited because there will be this, depending on the needs of our engineering team and what our focus group and user interviews will be based on, we'll have certain amounts of spaces for those particular interviews or focus group. And for specific interviews, we will prioritize those that have been actively been using and engaging Ozobot Classroom, as we are developing new features and would like to get insights, and it just makes more sense for somebody who's already very familiar with Ozobot Classroom. So if that's something that you're interested in, but maybe you haven't familiarized yourself with Ozobot Classroom, I encourage you to check it out so that you have more familiarity with it.
Yeah, it's a free account for educators. You can sign up at classroom.ozobot.com and start playing with it. I think, yeah, like Melissa said, a lot of our user interviews coming up will be focused on Ozobot Classroom, in part because we want to use this time right now to improve the tool, build in some of the new features based on feedback we've gotten from the educator community already. But then also when we talk about the Ozobot one-to-one pilot program, we're going to need to build in distance learning support into Classroom. So that's something where we'd love to connect with some CEs, run some initial like user flows by you guys and see what would be ideal for you.
Great. If we're preaching to the choir here, I'm assuming everyone knows Ozobots and knows them well, but if you know any educators that are interested in Ozobots and would like a demo with a STEAM specialist, feel free to have them reach out to ozo.bot/request-demo. And then here are all your contact information. So our YouTube channel has all of our past webinars and more, so feel free to subscribe to that. If you'd like a recording of this webinar, make sure you've opted in for updates on ozobot.com, and you'll get emailed all of our webinar recordings. If you have questions for Kristen, Lisa, Nikki, or Renee, all of their Twitter handles are there. If you have any questions for us or anything that we covered today, certifiededucator@ozobot.com is where you can find us. So, Adrienne, would we like to open it up for questions from our audience now?
Yeah, that'd be great. Really quick, I do have one more update hot off the presses that Ozotown, the much anticipated Ozotown, is now live. So I'll drop the link in the chat for that as well. You can always access it from our website if you go to the create section and then games. For those who aren't familiar or who haven't been anxiously awaiting this, Ozotown builds on what we've done with Shape Tracer. So it's a robot simulator, so your students can use Ozoblockly without bots and start to learn the basics of it. Ozotown builds into deeper skills than Shape Tracer, so specifically things having to do with line navigation or intersections that can be challenging for students. It digs into those deeply.
All right, great. So we can move to Q&A, but I believe I was incorrect in that people were unmuted. So Adrienne, should I unmute all? What do you think is the best process for the Q&A?
Yeah, let's try going off mute. Let's see what happens.
All right, so I'm gonna unmute everybody. And if you are not speaking, please just mute yourself so that the background noise isn't going to interfere. But
can they mute themselves? I think so, right?
I believe so. Let's try it and see. All right, everyone's unmuted. Are there any questions from our attendees? Oh. It looks like I actually have to allow people to talk. So I'll go ahead and do that.
Yeah, unmute all is just for panelists.
Yeah, in the meantime, if you'd like to type into the chat, we can answer questions that way as well. It looks like some people are using an older version of Zoom, which isn't allowing me to have them talk.
Oh shoot, sorry about that, you guys.
Okay, it looks like some people are. Feel free to chime in if you are able to talk and have a question.
I like everybody starting to kind of share their Twitter handles in the chat. I really like that idea because I've connected with several CEs. So if y'all would keep doing that, I'm just over here following.
Yeah, and if you guys don't mind, I keep a running list of everyone's Twitter handles. So I'll add anything added to the chat to that list, if that's okay with everyone.
Adrian and Melissa, thinking just now, a lot of people were interested in co-hosting or Twitter chats and things like that. Should we provide a document after the meeting that lets people partner up for webinars and such?
Yeah, kind of a sign-up sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can put that together probably even in time for the follow-up email about this webinar.
Yeah.
We can shoot for that. Someone asked me to share that list of CE Twitter handles. I'm going to drop that into the chat. Although I've got a bunch of new ones to add, which is great. Everyone can edit that list as well. So if you want, if your handle is missing, you can just add it in.
All right, I'm not sure if we're getting any questions.
Hanka asked, would it be possible to translate Ozotown/shape tracer? But I think, so I'll have to talk to our engineering team about whether a plugin would work, because I don't know if right now there are plans to translate it, but I'll definitely present that to them. And I can always message you, Hanka.
Great. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going back through the chat, Melissa. I think we've covered most of the questions. One question about, Lisa, I think this was from you, with Twitter chats. Would you help promote us for Twitter chats? Yes, definitely. We'll get the word out to our whole community about those.
And Susan is asking if Classroom is available for Mac users.
Classroom for Mac computers?
Yes.
1 second, let me check.
I mean, we all have at the office Macs, and we just download the Chrome browser to our desktop, and then you can access it through the Chrome browser on a Mac. Does that help, Susan?
Yes, it does. I mean, I knew that. I was trying to avoid using the Chrome browser, but and when I talked to the engineers back when this first came up for us to pilot, that was their thought, was that they were going to move forward so it would be available on Safari. But if it's not, that's fine. I'll break down. Thanks.
Yeah, for now it is just for Chrome. Great. Well, I think we've addressed all the questions. If we missed something, just let us know. Again, you can email certifiededucator@ozobot.com anytime. And we'll send this recording and slides out to everyone, all of the CEs, and we'll try to get ready for that same email, a kind of sign up sheet where you guys can find potential collaborators and co-hosts for webinars and Twitter chats, if that would be valuable.
Thank you to all of our panelists and our attendees. This was such a wonderful morning to spend with everyone. We hope everyone stays safe, and we'll talk to everyone soon.
Thanks, you guys. Bye.